Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian. I'm joined by the one, the only Mr. Charisma himself, Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Wow, that guy.
You are that guy. Mr. Wonderful, Paul Thurrott.
Yeah, that's me.
How you doing, Paul?
I'm okay.
Busy day for you.
Yep.
It seems like the last hour and a half it has gotten really busy because there was a new build of Windows 10.
Yes, there was.
It's still very uncomfortable to say Windows 10. Have you gotten a hang of it? Like, is your mind defaulting to Windows 9?
No, I got it.
You got it.
I got it.
I'm having a very difficult time with the whole Windows 10 thing, but I also have a hard time with a lot of words, so I think it's just me. I think it's the fact that English was like my fourth language.
Wow.
Yeah, my parents taught me everything except English until I was like 5. That explains a lot for me. And I married an ESL teacher, so how perfect is that?
Sure.
So she'll correct me every now and then with some words.
She doesn't have to be an ESL teacher to correct you all the time. But
No.
but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, she'll do it anyway. But lots happening. So why don't we can you run down what they changed in this build? Because everybody in the chat room right now, we have about 170 people in the chat, people watching live. They're all asking me,
right,
what's in the new build?
Yeah, I mean, so far, I mean, I got this thing. I started it installing, ran upstairs to take a shower because I was running late for the podcast. And I've just sat down, and of course, I haven't really had time to look at it per se. But I mean, I can tell you what they say in the blog post, and I think the most interesting aspect to this isn't so much what's in this build, but the way they're going to update things going forward. So as far as the new stuff goes, there's basically one major new feature that's only partially implemented, and then a couple of small things. And so they've added the Action Center, Notification Center. So they're going to use the same name they used in Windows Phone. In fact, the way it was described was basically that this is the Action Center from Windows Phone, which further confirms that notion that these OSs are being combined.
One unified OS.
Yeah. So we're getting that, not the full implementation of it, just basic notifications and so forth. There was a change to switching between screens, keyboard combination for doing that if you have multiple monitors, which I'll have to add to my keyboard shortcut article now that I think of that. And the third one was an animation for when you're switching between desktops, regardless of how you do it, just to give you a visual indication that you're making a change, because a lot of those, the desktops all have the same background right now. It's hard to tell where you're at.
Yeah. So what was it doing before when you made
nothing?
A change?
It would just switch. It looked a lot like you were switching to just another app, and so it wasn't always clear that you were on a different desktop.
Okay. So nothing. I mean, just small changes. And this is what they said a couple of weeks ago, where there are going to be a number of updates coming along. It's not going to be like this one mega update after this. They're going to constantly update this until release. Am I off there, or am I right?
No, I think that's about right. I mean, it's not really clear like what the schedule is. In fact, I think they're not clear. I don't think there is a schedule per se. I mean, in the sense that we're not going to do this every 2 weeks or whatever. But the one thing, the blog post describing this update described a kind of schedule. If you're familiar with the way that Google updates Chrome, you know that they have different. What do they call them? Like there's a canary build, a dev build. There's obviously the stable build, whatever the different tracks or whatever. And so with Windows, they're calling these things rings.
Okay.
And with this update, we can get into a faster ring. It's not much faster, actually. It's just faster than slow. But right now, the technical preview people out in the public they only get updates after everyone else does internally at Microsoft. And so you've got like the core group of people working on the build, you've got the operating system group, you've got Microsoft, and it kind of goes out from there. And now with this build, you were seeing sort of a formalization of something they had talked to before, which was that some people who want things quickly can get them immediately through Windows Update, and people who don't want them that quickly can wait.
Okay.
And they can be on the slower track.
But they could still get it if they wanted it.
Oh, yeah. Well, eventually they'll have to. I mean,
Yeah.
Eventually they will have to get the...
You know what I'm surprised? A lot of people are not on 8.1 yet.
Okay, so...
Like, how is that possible?
Because, okay, I'm actually surprised that's still true, but for a while, part of the problem was that 8.1 was kind of hard to acquire. It was that one release that they put through the store. And I think it was just too big for the store. I just think it was too much. So they're not doing that anymore, and they're not doing it with this, and we'll see. I feel bad for anyone who's stuck on 8.0. I mean, 8.1 and 8.1 Update 1 obviously both have tremendous updates, that are worth having. I mean, you would be in kind of a tough place if you didn't
do it. When 8.1 came out, I got a lot of emails from viewers and even people that I know where they had an awful experience moving over to 8.1 because it turned out that a lot of PC manufacturers, you had to do a pre-update from their website before you could go to 8.1. I mean, I know that things like that happen, but I had never seen it happen for, it was almost treated like a new operating system rather than an upgrade to 8.0. Where, like Toshiba, for example, on a lot of their laptops, if you updated to 8.1, it may have not worked, or if it did, it could have been an awful experience for you because you had to do some pre-update to do this.
Yeah, yep, that's true. I mean, I by this point, of course, that stuff's all kind of come and gone, and whatever problems people were having in the store should have been fixed. I mean, I haven't heard about anything with regards to people still having that problem. But that was a big deal for a long time, for maybe longer than it should have been. But I believe that stuff's all been rectified.
Yeah, it's surprising to see how many people are still on 8 or they haven't even thought about upgrading to 8.1. They weren't even aware that they had to, do this whole thing to do it. My brother is one of those people. I mean, he's not really tech savvy. And I was like, are you running 8 or 8.1? He's like, what do you mean? I'm running whatever the latest version of 8 is.
I mean, some people studiously ignore updates. My wife is like that.
Mine too.
Yeah.
I actually got into an argument with Jess. She did not want to do the...
It's like a stubbornness thing, isn't it?
Well, you know what it is? Like talking about 8.1 for iOS, it dropped yesterday. And I'm telling her, like, oh, we got to update your phone. She's like, I don't want to do the update. I was like, no, you have to do it. She's like, why? Everything's fine. Why do I need to update? I'm like, you just don't know. You have to do the update. She's like, but give me a good reason. Why do I need to do this update? I'm like, because Apple said so.
Right. It's possible that Microsoft knows more about the updating schedule of your PC than you do. Maybe you could just, or Apple, I guess, whatever she's using. Maybe you should just do that.
I'm just like secretly updating all of her stuff. I actually updated to Yosemite. So Yosemite came out and I updated her laptop and she didn't even notice it. Like for days she was running. She had no idea.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, did you notice that it changed? I'm like,
it's slightly more colorful. No, nothing.
And then she's like, oh yeah, it's different. I like the old one better. Wow. I'm like, there's nothing to like.
Actually, one thing I really like about Yosemite, I'm not going to review it or anything, but one of the things I thought about doing was, here's some cool stuff that's in Yosemite that Windows needs is just the font treatment,
Yeah.
On the menus and everything. It's so clean. It's really nice.
So you know what I realized? And a viewer tweeted me, and we were talking about, using a Mac and using a PC and some of the things that are very difficult to kind of convert over. And some people say, well, Apple's easier. Some people say, the Windows is easier. So it was based on the topic last week. And this guy on Twitter messaged me. He's like, hey, Andrew, how do you cut and paste a file on the Mac? And I'm like, simple. Command X and Command V. Just like how you do it in, on Windows. He's like, nope. It copies it. It doesn't cut it. So if you want to actually, cut the file, remove it from that folder and put it into another folder, how do you do that? And I'm like, that's really weird. It's really, you can't do it. So
they don't let you actually move it, essentially.
No, you actually have to delete the file, right?
Okay. So, and knowing Apple, right? I mean, that's designed so you don't accidentally do something stupid.
You can do it, though. You could. It's not called cutting. So the way you do it, you copy the file like you're doing, you take a bunch of files, you copy it, you go into the new folder, you right-click on the folder and hit Option. And it'll say moving.
Right.
And you could actually move it that way.
Okay.
So technically, you could...
I'm never going to need to do this. So
so like normally when I move files, I just copy and drag it over. But it's a little convoluted, right? That's the way to do it. That's how you it's not cutting and pasting a file. Like you can cut and paste everything else except the file. You have to do that option thing in order to do it. So that's
there's stuff like that in Windows. Actually, I was just going to say that's so non-discoverable, but actually you can click on something on the desktop or in File Explorer in Windows. If you hold down the Shift key when you right click, sometimes you have different options. So we have that stuff.
I mean, that was his point. It was like, that those are like the little things that it's a little off. Like the main thing for someone going over from Windows is figuring out how you shut down an application. Like X is not shutting down an application.
I found, right.
That took me a while to get a hang of.
Yeah.
Now it's like I just hit Command Q and I shut down the application and it's fine. So those are like the subtle things.
I think a lot of people use the Mac, close the window, and they think they've closed the application. And what they have is like a bunch of applications running in the background.
Well, I think that's the problem for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So any stability changes? Like there are bug changes also to this new build, right?
Yep.
Okay. Have you run into any bugs? Are there any reported bugs that we know?
I'm talking to you. I can't play with the build. What is wrong with you?
Oh, it just came out.
I just got it.
Paul, play around with it. Tell me.
I'm looking
at
it. I can't play with it.
So interesting. I should download this. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean, if you already have the build installed,
I don't.
You know, it's okay. So that would be the first step because I don't think you can just download this one ISO. I think you have to actually get the maybe I don't know. Maybe if you get the preview today, get the new version.
And it's a bigger file, right?
No, actually, it's not that big. It's 2 to 2.7 gigs. So normal Windows ISO is 3.5, 4, depending on the version, depending on if it's x86, x64. So it's still significant. It's a big thing, but it's not like the full size that it's always been in the past.
Yeah. I want to talk about Apple Pay with you, Paul.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? So they released 8.1 and that enabled Apple Pay on all these devices. Have you had any experience with it yet?
Yes, just online, you know, like on the phone. I haven't gone to a store yet.
Because a lot of people actually, like people that really don't understand what like NFC is. Like they've never heard the term NFC.
It's because they're Apple people.
They are so excited about this. And I could give two craps about it. Like I've had NFC. I've never used it.
NFC is a big deal. And I know that because I've been using it for a couple of years on Windows phones. But it's a big deal for a number of things. The most important actually is this mobile payment thing. And the way that Apple has implemented this. Now, see, the thing is, Windows Phone had this a couple of years ago, but couldn't do anything with it. So if you think about how Passbook worked on the iPhone before yesterday, you know, you could put your Starbucks card in there. You could put like a Panera card in there. You could do your flight boarding passes, which is actually pretty useful. But you couldn't put credit cards in there. And now with this update, you can. And then, of course, you can use the mobile payment. And I think there are people who have probably made, I'm sure there are people who have, made these payments out in the world. I mean, people, or I should say, stores have these machines. They must be there for a reason, right? You could ostensibly walk into a Starbucks or a McDonald's has them and pay with, I guess, your NFC enabled Android phone.
I mean, gas stations have them. The gas station I go to has it. Yeah.
So, this stuff is out there, but it isn't until, Apple does it, I think, that it becomes a big deal. And so it's interesting because Apple, they did a really good job with it from what I can tell. Like they've taken a number of things that weren't necessarily super fleshed out and made them much more valuable, right? So Passbook is the obvious example. The Passbook app now can hold credit cards. Not all credit cards, my wife and I typically only use a debit card to pay for everything, which is a local bank. They're not in there. We can't use that with Apple Pay.
It's a MasterCard, but it's part of the bank.
Yeah, it's like a debit card from the bank.
Okay.
So it's like Bob's Bank here in Dedham, and it's got 13 members, and we're going to be in there last. So, okay, fine. I didn't expect that one to work. My work Amex card would not go in. That's not supported. Normal Amex corporate card. What else didn't work? Maybe that's it. So we have two Chase cards, like a MasterCard and a Visa. We never use those for anything. Like there's no balance on them. We have them just in case, I guess. Those went in fine, and I did those first because the Amex had failed, and I thought, well, I'll try the MasterCard and Visa, and those worked, and that's neat. And there's no information it's sort of a picture of the credit card with a partial number on it, so you know which one it is, and there's no information associated with it because in this case, I've never used the card for anything.
Yeah.
So for the heck of it, I'm like, well, I have this personal Amex card that we got through Costco. I'll just put it in. We'll see if it works. And that worked. And the thing that was interesting about that one is that we've actually used that card a lot lately. We booked some trips for next year, and I paid for like a car repair on it. And your account activity appears in there, like you can see it, and you can configure it so you get notifications. So if
Yeah.
there's activity on the card, so for people that are walking around with their smartphones all day, which is, everybody, like actually that kind of thing is really convenient, right? I mean, it's not just the ability to pay for something. You can actually manage your credit card from this app, and so that's interesting. But the other thing that they fleshed out, of course, is the Touch ID deal. And so there are apps, like obviously the Apple Store app is an example. I've been meaning to buy a new cover for an iPad because it got stained with something. And so I bought a new cover and I used the app. And if you know how you can use the Touch ID to log into the phone, you can do that to do a payment. And so you know how quick and easy that is. And it's really quick and easy and it's nice. And so I will bring it out in the world and I'll try it out at a store, but I would imagine it's going to work exactly how I think, which is that you touch the phone to the NFC device in the store. It makes the connection. It's sort of like the thing that handles that connection. And then you touch your finger to the Touch ID and you pay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be quick.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm curious if people
you choose a card.
are people going to use this right now. Like a lot of people are interested. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that's actually using it. I'm just curious if this is going to be something that catches on because NFC is phenomenal, but nobody's really using it, right? When I mean nobody, and I don't want to it's not a blanket statement.
Yeah,
Real world people are not using it. Some people are, but the majority of people are not.
So I think the way I would say it is that NFC is a nicety until now, right? Aside from mobile payments, e-wallet stuff, it's a nicety. It's a slightly easier way to make a Bluetooth connection between your phone and some speakers or a headset or your car or whatever that might be. It's a nice way to exchange data between two phones. You know, that Samsung ad where they bumped the two phones together. I actually used that when I was in Spain.
Yeah.
To get a photo off of a phone I couldn't get online onto one that was online, so I could share it on Facebook. It worked great. It happens nearly instantaneously. Actually that's Bluetooth as well. But it's a nicety. You know, if you don't have it with a Bluetooth speaker, you can still go into a Bluetooth, control panel of some kind and configure the device. It still works. It's just a little clumsier. And so it's just kind of a nicety. But I think the nicety when it comes to mobile payments is that it's sort of managing that connection. So as you just tap your device onto something, and then your payment thing comes up. You choose which one you want. It authorizes you by your fingerprint, and you make the purchase. That actually works really well. So that's a big deal, I think.
Yeah, I wonder how this is going to affect services like PayPal. Because Apple Pay. Not only can you use Apple Pay to, your actual device, but if you're doing online shopping, you could actually use Apple Pay at certain places that accept it.
Right.
So it's becoming a PayPal competitor in the sense that if you're going to Macy's.com.
Absolutely a PayPal competitor. Yeah.
If you're going to Macy's.com or, Bloomingdale's.com, you could actually use Apple Pay to buy it. I'm not saying those are the stores, but there will be stores that are going to support it. I think majority of those Apple partners are going to support it in their online store as well. But how does that affect PayPal's business? Because PayPal has had a very difficult time getting in with the large retailers. When you see a large retailer accept PayPal, you're like, wow, they take PayPal?
I can't speak for out in the world, but I know that online, the ability to pay for something with PayPal to me is wonderful because it's so easy.
Oh, changed everything.
Yeah, because, in the past, a lot of times you would spend a lot of time creating an account at some online retailer, typing in all your information, providing your credit card details. So it's out there with someone else. And we all know that these places are all being hacked and everything. And it's kind of ponderous. And PayPal is kind of nice. You can come into this one-off thing if it's, maybe it's a person who's running a charity race, once a year, and it's, and even if you had created an account a year ago, are you going to remember it now a year later? I mean, it's just a nice thing. You have hopefully a complex password or whatever, but you password protect your account. You log in. It provides the address to the person that's shipping it, but not your credit card information. nice. It's just a nice thing. And so the kind of weird aspect of this Apple Pay thing is that over the past year, especially, I've noticed that PayPal is much more prominent and available around the web than it used to be. And so I kind of hope both systems can continue. In fact, ideally, PayPal becomes a payment method that's acceptable through Apple Pay. Why wouldn't it be? Except for the fact that they would be doubling the fees or whatever. But they would be stupid not to do that, and I bet they do.
Well, it seems like they're starting to, like with iTunes, for example. You could use PayPal with iTunes, but if you have a family share account with iTunes, you can't use PayPal, which is fascinating. They don't allow you to use PayPal with iTunes if you have like the family sharing enabled.
Okay, because they don't want. Well, I assume. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder why.
Yeah, it says a lot. I mean, to me, that's them kind of stepping back with this whole PayPal thing. Because, listen, I don't want the whole show to be about this, but think about online banking and think about what PayPal has done. For me, I no longer use my bank debit cards anymore. I constantly use my PayPal cards. I have a PayPal business card and I have a PayPal personal card. And the business card is far more, the PayPal interface is far more refined than my bank's interface. Like my bank gives me like a chart and says, okay, you spent 30% of whatever on utilities. Well, okay, so break that down for me. They don't do that. PayPal will break it down if you have a business account. I'm sure they do some, some sort of analytics on personal accounts as well, but PayPal will break it down and tell me, you winsupersite.com, you spent, $400 last year on winsupersite.com, and it'll actually give you a chart of like where you spend everything.
Right.
That's great. My bank does an awful job at that. Apple, on the other hand, could do a phenomenal job. I mean, just think about the Apple fluidness and the Apple look and the design aspect. They could do a great job of breaking down every single thing that you've paid. And I can see people using it in that sense and using it as far as like an online banking service.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I this is a weird one because I think Apple has done something legitimately good with this system, but it's kind of like Uber and taxis, and like there's this new thing that's taking over for the old thing, and I actually think that these things can all coexist. That we all have different ways of doing things. My wife and I happen to use our debit cards for almost everything. Usually, some people to get points and everything, they'll put everything on a credit card, then they'll pay it off every month, hopefully. I just think there's going to be different ways to do this. I do kind of like the notion of going through PayPal for a lot of stuff. I really like PayPal. I like the way it works. As a user, actually, I mean, as someone who accepts PayPal payments.
As a vendor, it's a pain in the butt.
Freaking, it's like dealing with the Russian mafia. But
yeah, but
whatever.
Yeah. Well, what sucks about PayPal? I could send you $1,000 right now, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 6 months later, I'll deny the charge.
Right.
PayPal takes my side over yours.
Yeah.
And I've heard stories from people that do website work. One of our viewers, Nick Craig, he has a website, and he does web work, and he does Roku apps. And he had a client. The client paid him like $2,000 for an application. He made the app. The guy used the app. He shut down his streaming service. So he was a podcaster. And he denied the charge.
I don't have to pay for this anymore.
Yeah. He goes, I don't know what this charge is.
Incredible.
I never authorized it. And guess what? PayPal took the money from him. He disputed it, and he never got it back.
I mean, I've seen this in small ways. So, Raphael and I are selling this book for, for $2, right? It's like we've had people challenge this payment, right? Now, why would you challenge this payment? What's the point? I think in most cases, and I have to say, and by the way, I have to guess, because one of the problems with PayPal, it's the same problem with, the Wall Street Journal wants to have an app on the iPhone and the iPad, but Apple doesn't let them have that customer information. And that's kind of a weird deal. Like, we don't actually have a direct relationship with the person that bought the book. We don't get any of your information. So, PayPal does its thing on the back end. It says, yep, it's okay. And then we have no way to go and say, okay, here's the email address they provided. Let's send them a nice email that says, here's the download link and everything's fine. They don't let you do stuff like that. And so I think a lot of the problem that we've had is around people who pay for the book. They pay $2, and then they never get an email alert saying where everything is. And depending on how they bought it, they might not have seen it on the webpage, even though it was in fact there. We don't have any way to reach out to those people. So the good part of it is I don't get to spam you. Not that I would, but I mean, of course we have a privacy statement that declares that we won't as well. But we also can't reach out with legitimate things. Hi, thank you for buying our book. Here's your download link. Please, keep this because you'll always be able to use this. Yada yada yada. We can't even do that.
Yeah,
and that's the problem being on the kind of the merchant side. We actually, this is kind of a semi-unrelated, but we had one guy actually challenge the book payment. Again, it's $2. Okay, $2.
he wasn't satisfied.
I don't know. He challenged it with his credit card company.
Oh my God, he probably didn't know what it was.
I don't know. So we got the email, and Raphael and I talked about it. And Raphael was like, we're gonna have to pay $10 if we want to challenge this. And I was like, oh, we're challenging this.
Yeah,
that's you've got to be kidding me. It's a 550-page book, $2. I mean, really? That's like a small coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. What do you seriously? But that's people. People are terrible.
It's fascinating to me. But to kind of go back to Apple, right? How will this? How will this? Like, I'm trying to think of all the positives, right? Of using Apple Pay to pay for something. What if you could start paying your bills, your utility bills,
right,
with Apple Pay? You get reminders. You automatically set the payments. I could pay my car. I could pay my gas, electric. I could pay my car taxes.
You can imagine a system where you get an email, right? I mean, the Apple way, there'll probably be apps for everything, which is stupid. But I could picture, Comcast sends you an email. Of course, you'd be on auto pay for this stuff too. But Comcast could send you an email, and in the email, you could tap on something that says "Pay the bill," and a little thing would come up and say, "Press your Touch ID, paid." This is the tip of an iceberg.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah, I in the email thing I just described, I realize is not necessarily super sophisticated, but I really do think this convenience of having it all in one place, and the way it works. I mean, I have to say, just using it, it's nice. It's really.
And
nice.
These aren't things that haven't been done before, but you have to think about the public perception of using this. Will the majority of people that have an iPhone, will they use this? Okay, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But there's more of a chance that they're going to use Apple Pay for something like that if they already have an iPhone, rather than trying to find a service like PayPal, registering with that and signing up for that and using that as well. So, it's the whole Dropbox thing, right? Like, if you have OneDrive, why would you use Dropbox? If you're not familiar with Dropbox, you're probably going to use whatever comes with the OS or the computer or the product, rather than going and finding something. So this can be a game changer in the sense that more people are going to know about it and more people are going to want to use it. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
I had an itch on my nose, Paul, and I had to switch to you to scratch my nose.
My nose was often itchy.
Oh, my God. So, I mean, that's the Apple Pay stuff. It's interesting. I'm just curious on who's going to use it and how they're going to use it. I don't have an iPhone.
First of all, there are hundreds of millions of happy iPhone users. They love iPhones. They love to use their iPhones. They don't ever want to put those iPhones down. They are going to use it. These guys are going to drive to Disney stores just to buy something so they can experience it. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to push it. This is what's going to push it over the edge.
Especially during the holiday season. I mean, this is right before Christmas. So
somewhere out there, there's a disgruntled Android user who's saying, "Oh God, I've been doing this for 9 months. What the heck? Why is this a big deal?" I mean, it's a big deal because this stuff is going to be pushed into more and more places now because of Apple. And so there are places that don't have these NFC-based mobile payment kiosks, whatever. They're going to start appearing, and then everyone can use them. It's going to be for everybody. So I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
It works great. Again, I haven't taken it out in the world, but I know it's going to work.
What did you use it with when you bought it online?
The Apple Store app.
Okay.
But I mean, you can look through the list. If you go into the App Store, they have a section now for Apple Pay apps, and it's like Target and Panera's in there. There's a bunch of them now. Already, and it's going to explode. It's going to be crazy. I bet every day you go back and there'll be more.
Yeah, I'm curious. Let's see what happens in a couple of months, right? Maybe we might be talking about how this thing flopped and nobody used it.
I don't know. Honestly, that is inconceivable to me. It's not going to flop. This is what's going to put mobile payments over the top. I really do think that.
Something that has been in trouble, Paul, is iPad sales.
Well,
They're declining.
yes.
To stick with the Apple thing, and I find that interesting that iPad sales are declining, but tablet sales are rising. So what are
Sure.
people actually buying, and
Right.
why aren't
So I
they
don't
buying
have this in front
iPads?
of me, but I saw a statistic that it wasn't a single model, but it was Samsung tablets are number 2 in the market. And before we saw these results, they had closed the gap with Apple fairly significantly. And so sometime last year, I think mid 2013, the iPad was no longer more than 50% of the tablet market. So they're still the best selling like model or whatever. But actually, sometime in the next, unless something changes, and look, I'm not dumping on Apple here. I think you know, their products are good enough that when you have like an iPad Air and an iPad Mini with Retina display, I mean, what are you going to do? You make it a hair thinner. You put some coating on the screen to make it slightly less reflective. You put Touch ID in, which is great, but people already have those devices. They're not going to buy the new one. This is $500 and up for the full size iPad.
You're not talking about a cheap
Uh,
product.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just this is where the pricing thing kind of bites the Apple model because their model relies on people buying stuff every single year over and over again. And so they don't know what the upgrade cycle is yet on the iPad, but it's probably going to be close to what it is on the Mac, somewhere between the 1 to 2 years you see on a phone, because that's the way those contracts work. And then whatever it is for PCs or Macs, probably 4 or 5 years, maybe in some cases, on extreme cases. And so, maybe the natural upgrade time frame on iPad is 3 years or 4 years. We're going to find out, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, I mean, think about how many people that have an iPad, and how many of those people actually have an iPad 2. Majority of people
Yeah,
that I talk to that
yeah.
have an iPad 2, and that thing is, 3 years old now, almost going to be 4 years old.
Confronted with the choice of an iPad Mini, non-Retina, with a lot of storage, and a Retina version with the 16 gig base version, I would take the non-Retina version every time.
Yeah.
Every time, because the non-Retina, the regular, whatever you call that, the regular resolution, non-HD resolution, whatever they are, screens look fine. We're so fixated on this stuff. Like, I mean, I think the things that matter to Apple the most, like the thinness, the lightness, the Retina, whatever. They have 3 different kinds of Retina screens now, and it's nice. I mean, I'm not trying to say it's not nice, but it's just not. It doesn't require that upgrade.
No,
So
I
we'll
also
see.
I also think that there's and look, I want you to tell me if I'm wrong, and I actually want to hear from the viewers. But I think the reason why the
You're
iPad was
wrong.
so successful was because A, it was a beautiful device, and really nobody had really done it that well. But 2, it was simple and it did
Yeah.
what you wanted it to do. But now you've been using an iPad for 4 or 5 years. Um, it's now time that maybe the simplicity of it is kind of affecting it. You can't do split screen, applications on it. It does multitasking, but it's not really like a computer.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of those people that were using it. Like me, for example, I would love to be able to split the apps and do multiple applications at one time, on the screen that I could see it. I would love to have
Yeah.
my IRC client up, my Skype client up, and a web browser, and I'm doing all of it at the same time. Right now, you can't do that on the iPad, but you could do that on
Yeah. Well, you
on
can do it in a
Windows.
hokey fashion. Oh, in Windows you can. Yes,
Yeah,
of
you could
course.
do it on Windows. You could even do
Some
it on.
Android devices do it, but that's a little weird.
I mean, you could even do it on those Samsung tablets.
Mhm.
So I want to talk about that, but before we do that, I want to take a little break and talk about Patreon. If you want to support the show, you want to help Paul and I out. Like today, we have no ads, and the reason why we're able to do that is because you guys are funding the show, and when you fund the show, we do limited ads. So some weeks we have ads, some weeks we don't. Some weeks we have one ad. I want to keep the shows down to 1 or maybe 2 ads if it's a specialty ad, but I don't want to bombard the show with ads. And the way that we do that is by you guys funding us. And you can do that by going to patreon.com/whatthetech. We have 399 people funding the show. Who's going to be number 400? We'll see. Lucky 400 gets you nothing. If you fund the show, you can fund us anything. We suggest $1, but you could do 50 cents, 25 cents, whatever you want to do. Whatever you're able to do, we accept. And when you fund us, you get access to our bonus show. After What the Tech each and every week, we record What the Talk. Paul and I just BS for, half hour, whatever it is. And we talk about, it's just the wrap-up show. It's the post show. Patreon.com/whatthetech. Go there. Help us out. Fund us. And the people that are doing it, I greatly appreciate you guys funding us. Give us your money.
Wow.
Give it to us. No, it's great. So many people are doing this. So let's talk about the future of the PC, because you had a great post on your website. There's a 2-in-1 device. It's $170 something, $179.
Yep.
It's a comes with you get the keyboard, you get the screen, and it's this 2-in-1 thing. That really seems to be the future right now of the laptop. That's I mean, we were talking about this when Windows 8 came out, saying, what is it going to be? Is it going to be a laptop with a touchscreen? Is it going to be a convertible? Is it going to be a detachable device? It's this 2-in-1, but it seems like the 2-in-1 is going to be the future of the laptop as far as mid-range products go and for what most people are buying. Does that have anything to do with why we're seeing a decline in iPad sales? I mean, do these two things have anything to do with each other? Because the Surface really set this in motion. And it may not be the Surface that's, the device to get, but it did kind of set this example of this is what the product should be like. This is what it should be. I mean, a detachable keyboard, you connect it when you want, and you take it apart when you want, and you go, you're on the go. You really can't do that on the iPad. You can
actually, right? Okay, it's funny. Okay, it's funny when you were talking earlier about the iPad and everything. I was thinking to myself, I had mentioned some of the things that Apple fixed, but there are these things that are kind of glaring, and actually, multi-user is one of them. iPad. I honestly feel like they did it on purpose. That they designed iOS to be a single person, not because it was easier, but because what they want is for you to buy an iPad for your child, one for your other child. I really think that's part of the thing, but there are these things that are inherent to Windows that you get in these 2-in-1s and on Windows tablets. That you talked about earlier, multiple windows and stuff. But I think multiple users is a big deal for families as well. And so not only do you spend a lot less on the device, but then you have a device that you can share, and everyone gets their own space on the device. I don't know. I'm not. Apple sells millions of iPads. It's not like they're struggling exactly, but I do wonder sometimes if we hit like the natural point where a device of that type, that simple but also that limited, has a limited audience, and that maybe we're reaching that limit.
I mean, it's a limited audience that you could do a lot with. Obviously, the computing power of the iPad, the iPad Air 2, is up there with a lot of low-end PCs. It's up there as far as what you're going to be able to do, but the fact that I can't, and it's never bothered me until recently when I started using this more, the fact that I can't do like a split screen. Well,
I don't know. So what would be better? So, think about the typical iPad screen, right? iOS developers are targeting certain screen sizes, certain resolutions, certain aspect ratios, and so forth. And so, if you add the ability to split the screen on an iPad, you've created kind of a new problem. Like they need to have maybe more sophisticated layout capabilities, which, by the way, they're adding. That was one of the big deals for iOS 8. Or would it be better to allow them to scale Windows on high resolution iPad screens, right? So if you have a Retina display, you could say, hey, here's an idea. Run this app as if it were on an iPad 2 in a window.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could scale it if you wanted to. You could resize it, I guess. That might be a little ponderous. I mean, would that even make any sense? Would floating, or are we just missing the point here entirely? That, once you start overthinking the iPad, you've moved on to a different kind of device.
Well, that's kind of what we're doing, right?
I mean, an iPad Pro,
Well, it's that imaginary device that we came up with last week where something like that would be great, but
Apple will, I just don't picture them building that.
No, and I don't think they want to go into that direction, right? Because now it's getting convoluted and you're doing exactly what Windows did. And Windows 8 was not really that successful because of the fact that it was this Frankenstein-style operating system where it did a 2-in-1, essentially. But before the products existed.
Yeah, I mean, it's, people attach keyboards to iPads, right? They have keyboard covers and all kinds of stuff. Apple doesn't give you a way that I'm aware of to cycle between apps using the keyboard. Like, can you do that? Control tab kind of thing? Can you even do that?
I have no idea.
I
I've
don't
never
think
used it with a keyboard.
that would make a big difference. But I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, to get, you know, the basic, well, the basic unit of work, I guess, would be you're loading some word processor. It doesn't matter if it's Microsoft Office or iWork or whatever, and you're typing on a keyboard. Okay, that's one thing. The next step would be at least giving you the ability to quickly move between two things. There's a web browser that has information you're referring to as you write. You know, Alt, or I guess whatever, Command Tab on a Mac type keyboard. Look at the web browser, maybe even copy and paste, you know, back into the other app, whatever. But I mean, ultimately, I think you have to take that Microsoft step. You have to let, I think split screen has to happen. Like, I think that's the next logical step. And that would not require, but would be much better on a bigger screen, maybe a 16 by 10 screen.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? And when you connect it to a keyboard, it's intelligent enough to know, okay, you're using this as a keyboard, so we're going to change the way that you kind of use this. It's almost
just like they're doing in Windows 10.
Just like they're doing in Windows 10. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But by the way, when Apple does this, and I sort of do think they do it, although you have to wonder with Mac sales hitting their best level in 19 years, you know, this past quarter, that maybe things are going to change there too, but whatever. You know, once they take this step down this path, A, the Mac days are numbered right there, and B, Apple just admitted that something Microsoft did, which, by the way, they made fun of really hard, was right. Like that, you know, this 2-in-1 strategy essentially, you know, makes sense. This is like they're going to have to admit that in some circumstances, this actually makes some sense.
I mean, they had record sales. They sold 5.5 million Macs.
Yeah.
Last quarter. That's up, I think they said like 21% over the same period last year.
Yep,
so what's contributing to this? Is it just the decline?
I think this is related to the iPad thing, and it's related to what we're talking about, that a lot of Apple's customers, either via back to school time or whatever, in a quarter in which Apple did not release any new Macs, right?
Yeah.
In a quarter in which that new version of Mac OS 10 had not come out, they picked Mac. And Apple lowered the price. Remember, the entry level of a MacBook Air is a lot cheaper than it used to be, which is very interesting and I think is notable. And I think people went in there and they looked and they said, well, I guess I could spend, you know, $600, $800, $900 on some crazy expensive iPad, or I could spend a little bit more and get a MacBook something that makes more sense.
It's fascinating to me. I mean, considering Apple sold, I think, like 40 million iPhones in the same quarter. So if you consider like 40 million iPhones have been sold and 5.5 million laptops, Macs have been sold.
Someone pointed me to a post I'd written on the Internet Nexus blog in 2004, so exactly 10 years ago. And they were saying, you know, that Apple's Mac sales have risen dramatically since those dark days. You know, in that quarter, Apple had sold something like 790,000 Macs. It wasn't even 1 million Macs. And, you know, what a change that was. But I looked at what I had written that week, that month, whatever, and it was an article saying that in the same quarter, Apple had sold 840,000 iPods. So even then,
it was still
Apple's devices were outselling Macs, you know.
Yeah.
But the difference between then and now, aside from the volume, which is significant, is that Apple's Mac prices have come down. Apple's device prices have gone up. The devices they're selling now are really expensive. iPhones and iPads are really expensive devices. You know, Apple sold, I don't remember the figure, some millions of iPods. They still sell those things, even though that product line has not been updated in over 2 years. But they sold almost 40 million iPhones, and whatever the figure was it 16 million iPads, something like that.
So what do you do with the Mac division? I mean, I know this show has kind of been all Apple right now, but it's, you know, we're switching it up. Yeah, we're switching it up. What do you do with the Mac division? What's the future of the Mac division? Because they're not going to gain tremendous market share. That's not going to happen.
Right.
So what do you do with it? Is it now just becoming the specialty,
Well,
brand
you know
that you
what?
have where it's a few
I
million
think that
people?
the Mac, regardless of the percentage levels, the Mac is, I think it was almost 7% of the PC market in the quarter, which is still, single digits. It's still not great, right? But is in fact an awesome business. The iPad is losing ground to Android tablets and to maybe even to Windows tablets, which is crazy. But you know what? That's still a great business. And same thing with the iPhone. The iPhone is still the number one selling phone model, I think, but it's, obviously a minority part of the overall smartphone market, somewhere in the 13% range, somewhere around there, I forget. Um, you know what? That stuff doesn't necessarily matter when you have the margins that they have, when you have the revenues they have, the profits that they have. This is a company that generated tens of billions of dollars in cash in one quarter.
It's tremendous.
So, we tend to look at things from sort of a unit share perspective because those things are easily measured. Apple says we sold X number of units. It's very easy to compare that to other things. But they also make significant profits on each of those devices. They own some lion's share of the profits in many of those markets. And that stuff, that stuff matters. So, they may just kind of rise above it. And it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Let's talk about the smartwatch before we wrap up the show. Microsoft is reportedly going to announce a smartwatch within the next, I guess, week or so.
Yeah.
What is this device? What are they doing?
So what I had heard about this, and this is from some couple months ago now, is that they were supposed to announce it before now. It's a couple weeks overdue. $200, multi-platform, cross platform. It's going to work with Windows and phone and Android and iOS, largely fitness related. So kind of a fitness device. And if you're familiar with the Samsung Gear Live, not the big watch looking
The thin
thing,
one.
band. Yeah, the band. It looks more like my Fitbit. That type of form factor. Couple of days worth of battery life. And so not the 10 days typically I see on the Fitbit, but not the 1 day or less you're going to see on most Android watches.
You're getting a display on this.
Yeah, it is a display. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to gather my thoughts and make this into a question that makes a little sense. So they're targeting. That Live band, that Samsung Gear Live, that's a great device, and I've heard some great stuff about it. People really like that device, but
yeah,
is this thing going to work on Android, iOS, and their on the Lumia phones too? On top of everything else, what else is it going to?
Yeah, right. That's the plan. Yeah,
I'm curious about this because if they really can make this design look good, and they could be one of the few that actually put out a good-looking smartwatch.
Right. I'm not sure what to think about it. Like, I'm not really. I don't know that I see a huge future success for this thing. I sort of think that Microsoft feels they need to get out and do this and be part of it. And if they don't, they were behind in mobile. They can't wait like they did that time. So I think that's the point, but I'm just guessing because I really don't know what the point is. But I believe that's what they're doing. So
it's amazing how hush-hush this has been. Like no leaks.
Yeah.
No mock-ups. Like we don't.
Actually, I have seen one mock-up that was sort of like one of those patent filing type illustrations. I'm not sure if it was
a while
accurate,
ago.
but,
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, if you look at a Fitbit or more pointedly that Samsung Gear Live, that's the design that I heard.
I'm looking up pictures of this thing, and I love I love like the mock-ups of just like a Lumia on your wrist.
Yeah.
Like they took a Windows phone and just made it a little square and just strapped it on your wrist. There's a couple one like Mashable
better than a Windows blue screen,
Yeah. Mashable has like a little mock-up. That's like a cool idea, like this guy's holding one. If you just put in like Microsoft Smartwatch, you can see one. Mashable has one, and that's kind of the idea that I think this device is going to look like, similar to that Galaxy Gear Live device.
Right.
It's interesting. Any idea when they're going to announce it? Like, is there any? We were to take a wild guess.
Forbes said I can't remember, sometime in the next couple of weeks. But like I said, I heard this should have happened about 10 days ago. So Obviously something happened. I don't know. Maybe they wanted to wait to see how the Apple stuff fell through or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but
I mean, if they beat Apple to the market, it may help them.
well, yeah, and so I'm sorry. So actually, the release of it would occur in time for the holidays. So in that sense, they will beat Apple to market. I'm sure people will assume that they're copying, or whatever. But the truth is, yeah, they've been planning this for quite some time. So
This is a bizarre market because nobody's really successful in this.
yeah, and even Apple, I believe thinks it's going to be all that successful. Like they are lumping Apple Watch sales into the other category where they don't have to actually say how much they sold, because they know that the competitors are going to look to see how they're doing and so forth, and everybody wants to know how everyone else is doing and kind of copy each other and so forth. So they're going to hide sales as well. So. We'll see how that goes, but interesting.
People are looking for, like, every time there's a device that comes out, everybody's looking to send, like, well, is this going to be it? It's going to take a while for this market to mature into what's going to be successul. Tablets existed way before the iPad came out, for years before the iPad came out. Yeah. I don't know if you knew that, Paul.
No, vaguely.
Yeah. I mean, convertible laptops have been around for a long, long time. And even tablets, in the sense, have been around for a long, long time, but they weren't successful because it wasn't matured enough to the point that this was the device you wanted. Apple luckily came in at the right time, and they created the device that people wanted. For the smartwatch, nobody's creating the device right now that people want. People want this futuristic curved glass thing that you put on your arm, and right now, I mean, we're not living in 2025, sadly, because that's going to be a phenomenal year, Paul.
I'll be happy if I'm living 2025.
In 2025.
Yeah. That'll be nice.
It's going to be a great year. Flying cars.
Sure.
We're going to teleport everywhere, and we're going to have the Apple Watch that we've wanted for years. So it
will be embedded in your skin, and it will light up, through your skin or something.
Google contact lenses.
Sure.
We should talk about that on the post show.
Lenses?
No, on the post show. We should talk about what technology is going to exist in 2025.
Jeez, come on. I can't.
I want you to think about this.
I'm not going to have much for that.
We're going to forget how to write. Nobody's going to be writing anymore. It's going to be unbelievable. But, I mean, we're not going to get that crazy device. It's going to take a while, but it may not be Apple that creates that device that everybody wants.
Sure.
They hit a couple home runs here, but really beyond that, it could be anybody because the market's wide open and everybody's kind of caught on to, listen, we have to innovate in a sense in order to grab this market. Maybe Samsung's going to do it. Who knows? Who knows, Paul? All right, Paul, let's wrap it up. Time to end What the Tech. If you're watching live, stay tuned. We're going to record What the Talk right after this. If you're listening to the podcast, you can listen to What the Talk by going to patreon.com/whatthetech, funding the show. You could fund us anything and get access to the post show that we do each and every week. Also, if you want to help the GFQ Network out, go to our website, gfqnetwork.com. We have an Amazon link. If you buy anything on Amazon, the holidays are coming up, so I know a lot of people are buying stuff on Amazon. You could use our link, bookmark the link on our website, or just simply go to gfq.co/Amazon and bookmark that. Whenever you make a purchase, we get a small little credit. A small little portion of the sale goes to us, and we do stuff like upgrade our cameras and get new stuff here in the studio, so it's a big help. Oh, Paul, before I forget, you were a guest on a podcast a couple days ago. Can you give people information where they could get it? I started listening to it, and it was nice. Totally stopped.
So it's called The Tech Informist, and I'm checking to make sure. I believe it's thetechinformist.com, which it is. A couple of guys doing a tech podcast. They interviewed me, I think, for the first half of it. Then they did their normal news segment or whatever. They've had Daniel Rubino on there. Mary Jo Foley was their first guest, back in episode 1 or whatever. And it was nice. Definitely check it out. I mean, we covered some familiar ground to you. I think, how did I get started in this stuff? And
I love that stuff. I started listening. They were good. I just came home and I paused it and I totally forgot about it. And I saw you tweeted it today. I'm like, oh, you know what? I got to start listening to this because they did a really good job.
No, they were very nice. It was good.
Yeah. The Tech Informist. They're on Twitter too, so you can follow more just go to Paul's tweets, and it's on Paul's website, winsuperside.com. You can check it out there. Follow Paul on Twitter at The Rot. You can follow me at Andrew Zarian. And we'll see you all next week on What the Tech. Bye-bye for now.